Okay, Google's recording. All right, can I get mic check and also that you can see VS Code on the left and Heroku website on the right? Awesome, thank you. Okay, so last time we added this command um, because our Heroku logs, let's do my tmux here. What's the tail? Because the Heroku logs um, was showing that Heroku was trying to run our container with the Python command, and that's probably because that might have been what the base image was set to. So we added this command to tell Heroku, hey, run our container using um, what we want, like this script that we actually wanted. Okay, so that's what we ended up with last time, and it didn't update while we were uh, during the last session, but after the fact, it finally updated and it picked the web interface shows that it is running this command on our containers. So that's a very good sign. And then now that it's running our containers with the command that we want, we hit it. Oops. Here, sorry. If we hit it, um, it'll give us an error. But at least we know that we're actually getting to the container. Um, so now we just gotta solve these issues. So in the README, because I couldn't find a good tutorial, these are just some cliff notes. So you can definitely refer to it when you're doing your Heroku exercise. Um, so we did this step. So we're gonna continue updating our Django app so that Heroku is able to utilize or run our application um, in a way that everything works. So I don't know how when I first did it, there was an error message that told me that I need to um, use the port environment variable that Heroku sets. I don't know how I came about that error message. So I can't show you, but yeah, but we'll just work it. So in our Docker Compose, we were mounting our host host port to our container port. And then in our scripts file, we told Django to listen on the port. However, Heroku, it again doesn't respect our Docker Compose YML and how Heroku configures containers to run, because they have tons of containers running, right? So they need to be able to configure each container to use the port that they're actually opening up for it. So that's what we're going to do in this step is to tell the container to use the port environment variable that is set by the Docker engine that's running the container, which is Heroku's Docker engine running our container. So this is how Heroku can kind of pass in an environment variable so that our container can then make use of it. So this is a environment variable, and yeah, so Heroku sets this, and then our Django app will acknowledge it and then use it and listen on that port. So, so we made a change. Now let's again rebuild and push our image to Heroku. And if you remember the picture, we are doing this step here. We're building our source, and then we're pushing our image to Heroku. And then we tell Heroku to run the image that we just pushed. So this image that will run, so that's strange that it says nothing changed. Well, it's not updated, it's already running the specified Docker image. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I goofed here. So I forgot a step. So we'll actually do the port later. Maybe that's why the issue wasn't coming up. So let's figure out why. Let's console into the container and figure out why our app isn't running. So again, it says, yeah, so this is the error we're stuck with last. The script isn't found. So we'll go into the container and then check out what files are there, and we'll notice that only requirements.txt is there. So let me write a note to update that README to include this step. So in the Docker file, we actually copied the requirements.txt, but that's all it did. It didn't copy the rest of our code, including the scripts folder and our Django application. And the reason is, when we're running in development locally, we have, sorry, not that one. We had this volumes setting from Docker Compose that mounts our file into the container. But again, because Heroku is not acknowledging the Docker Compose and doesn't have access to this code on our machine, we need to actually make sure we copy that code into the container. So to do that, there will be copy, and I just want to make sure I have the syntax correct. Where is it? Okay, Docker file. Okay, so we're gonna say copy everything in the current build context folder, which is the root here. Copy that into the container at this folder within the container. So the next time we should see this when we remote into the container next time, we should be able to see more files. So again, let's build and push our image. So now there's actual a change was recognized, so that one layer is getting pushed. And then we're going to tell Heroku to run our newly pushed image. Okay, so now it's actually deploying it, the new image, and this should hopefully get us to our next error or issue. Okay, so it's running our command. So this actually looks familiar to us, right? That's what we normally do, normally see when we run Docker Compose, right? So if we were to refresh this, I'm still expecting them to tell me about the port. I think this is where I saw that issue. Let's just see if there's any clues here. Okay. Oh, there. So here's the error that got me to the port. So the web process failed to bind to port within 60 seconds. So then Heroku is saying, hey, your container didn't use the port that I set it to. I'm going to kill it and restart it, because every container Heroku is expecting it to kind of bind to that port. So so that's when we kind of update this to use the port that Heroku sets for us. And I guess we should also check, right? So the last time there was only a requirements.txt. And this time we should see all of our files. Internet. Okay, so that's all files. If we look at the start app, it has this 8000 hard-coded. So that's why last time when we made the change and built, Heroku was like, oh, nothing's changed because these files weren't added to the container. Now that these files are added to the container, when we change this, it should actually show up as a change. So again, we will rebuild locally and push the container. And then this is kind of why you want to keep your container small, using Docker ignore to ignore all the Git files. If especially with like Node.js apps, like it can get really big, these images. But luckily for us, our app is small enough where it's pretty fast. But if it gets to be slow, you should start optimizing on what actually gets installed or copied into the image. But I don't think we need it for this class. Okay, so we pushed our image, and tell Heroku to run our newly pushed image. And then at some point we should see it come up. And this time, since we are binding to the port, Heroku should not kill it like it did here. shouldn't kill our process. Okay, it's up. So let's see if we can interact with it. And now we have our Django errors, right? This style of error page is something we're familiar with, and hopefully that's comfortable. So it's saying that, so we're actually seeing a Django error, so we're making progress. So Django is saying, hey, we noticed that you're using this URL to interact with the app, but this URL isn't kind of set in our settings file. And we can just add this in, and that'll be fine. So when it's empty, Django knows that, oh, you're in development and allow localhost. But once we put this in, it'll only allow this and not localhost. So what I've kind of done is kind of allowed, make it as a list with 2 strings, one localhost and one the production URL. I guess kind of pseudo production. However, Heroku provides something to make it easier for us. And where is that? So production, Heroku. I think it was in here. And not this one. There's this one. So Heroku provides a library that you can install, and it'll kind of set these settings for you. So this is one of them. And if we look at the actual library, Heroku then also sets our database. So these are very like production stuff that Heroku is kind of doing for us, and allows you to kind of have your application log in a way where it is compatible with how Heroku does logging. So instead of us just fixing this ourselves, we can use this library and it'll kind of do all these things for us. So, and they'll do it dynamically. For us, like we'll be hard coding it, but for them, they'll know which environment variables are being set. So we'll do that. Okay. So I think that was the step. So we did this. I guess we should. We'll circle back to this. We'll circle back to that. Okay, let's install this library. So again, I don't know which version is latest. I'm going to run the app bash. When I'm inside the container, I'll temporarily install this library just so I can get a version number on what's current right now. But again, the library is only installed on this container that we're currently in. And to actually have it installed on all the containers, and especially the container on Heroku, we need to add it to our requirements.txt. So Django Heroku, here we go. Django Heroku 031. Install something that's at or later than version 031. So it's not even a major release yet. It's still kind of beta. Okay, and then I could build and check it out, but I'm gonna try to save some time here. And and just update our settings to use this. So at the top, we'll import our library. And at the very bottom, we'll actually have the library override our settings. So again, the allowed host setting and the database setting. But right now, the error that we encountered was allowed host. So doing that should get us over this error, and then we can move on to the next step. All right. So again, let's build and push. I don't know what this means. I feel like, yeah, it's reusing another layer somewhere. Okay, so we pushed it. Now we'll release it. And then when this comes up, we should hopefully get a different error. So I tend to do step by step instead of doing a whole bunch of steps at once. I don't know. I feel like it saved me a few times by not doing too much at once. But it is slower. Okay, so now we refresh. So this is a familiar site error. And then this is familiar. And what you notice is this database is being packaged into our container because it is in this step, it is getting thrown into the container. And if we got rid of this file, there will be no database on the production side. So we'll just quickly see this. And we should see the database table not found error. So now we run it. Because any changes done here will not come back to us in development. So and then each time we deploy, we kind of overwrite the database that's in production. So that's kind of why we don't want to use this, pass around these databases as files, because that's just not, you're going to run into all sorts of problems. And then that's taking longer than expected. Let's see what if I just refresh. So I don't know why our container is taking so long to stop. Okay, now it finally stopped, and Heroku's running the new container, hopefully. Okay. Okay, so this is the error that we typically see when there's no data, or the database hasn't been migrated. There's no table. And that's the next step where we actually add in the Postgres database table. So I think that'll be for next time. For now, I'm gonna go back here. Um, so we've got our Django app to a good point. Um, we just need to run our migration, and we can actually do this. We can bash in and run our migration, but what we're doing is just creating a another SQLite database. And I don't even know if it'll work, but yeah. Oh wait, that wasn't it. It's Heroku run bash. Oh wait, no, that's not it. Heroku run bash. But at the end of the day, we really want to connect with a Postgres database. Uh, so I'm just going to show this, and then we're going to clean things up and make things work locally, because after after this change, our local setup is probably broken. So here, I don't see a database file. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so we migrate, and if we refresh, yeah. So I think we run the migration, and it's in a container that is separate from the container that's serving the web. So when we bashed in, we're probably in a separate container, kind of like how we do when we do Docker Compose run. We're in a separate container than what's actually serving the application. Okay, so again, that's why we use Postgres database. We don't want anything on the file of the container. Uh, okay, so I don't need this anymore. So now, if we try to do Docker Compose up locally, um, it doesn't. I guess we need to rebuild. Docker Compose build. Docker Compose down. And Docker Compose up. Okay, so um, because we updated our script. Delete this stuff. We updated our script to use this environment variable, which Heroku injects, but Heroku doesn't help us locally. So what we then need to do is use Docker Compose to inject this environment variable into our container. And there's a few ways to do it. You can use environments and then start listing. Sorry, 2 or 4. Okay. And then start listing, you know, I forget the syntax, but my preferred way is to put it all in a file, and then that way you can reuse the file for different containers. It's a moot point for this because it's so simple, but the benefit kind of shows up when we start integrating Postgres and there's another service. So in this app, we're going to define an environment variable and set it to 8,000. And then to check this, you can do docker compose run at bash. And if you want to check the environment variables in this container, you notice that there's no oh, okay. I need to take this out to see it. So when we take that setting out, this environment variable won't be set. So we go again. The port is gone. So that's how we set environment variables with Docker and Docker Compose. So now if we do Docker Compose up, it should pick up the environment variable, and we should be able to then navigate to localhost. Oh wait, we set it to 2001. Yeah. And we have all errors again, the familiar errors that hopefully we know how to take care of. Okay, so that's closing up this, because we always want development to be working, and we want it to be as closely resembling production as possible. So if you start seeing weirdness on the production side, you can replicate the issue on development side, and it's just easier to fix things on development than it is to constantly build and push to troubleshoot. So if you can have local development, have parity between development and production, so that if you see any bugs on production, you can kind of easily replicate it in development. It'll just save you a lot of headache in the long run. Okay, so I think the next time we'll pick up and add our Postgres database. Any questions, comments? If not, I'm going to end it here. The audio can go out again, and I do have one announcement. So please don't just drop off yet. Okay, so I'll stop it and then see if there's any other questions still.